Hi Mike, how you doing?
Hello, yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Right, okay, so what's your previous then? What have you done? How many days have you done, or is this your first day or what?
This is my first, I've been out with the son a few times.
Yeah.
He's a racing driver, but it's my first time driving.
Right, okay, yeah. So that's his car, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, okay. So is this the first time you've driven today?
No, he took me out earlier.
Yeah, but have you actually driven this car today?
Yes, driven it today, yeah.
So you've done a few laps already, so you're
Yeah.
finding your way around. Obviously it's quite a long track, it's only 3 miles.
Yeah.
So a lot of corners. But yeah, well basically we'll make our way out there, and yeah, just sort of, it's a case of, as I mentioned earlier on, only look in the mirrors when you need to.
Yeah.
And then hopefully we'll get to the point where we're using all the track and make it flow nicely. The key factor, as I said to Michelle, is to be smooth and let the car sort of flow, and give the car as little work to do as possible.
Yeah.
And that way, the big thing I find with going on track with people who are used to driving on the road is that we're staying in one lane on the road, aren't you? But obviously what we want you to do now is use the width of the track to create a different line through the corner than the actual shape of the corner, as it were. So whatever the shape of the corner is, you've got to make that. Let's say you've got a hairpin corner that goes around my hand, and the track is that wide, there's no point going around the inside because you have to go too slow. So if you start off on the outside, coming close to the inside and then come to the outside, you then create a much easier curve.
Yeah.
So that's what we're looking at, always trying to use the maximum road through the corner, and that way you give the car less work to do. But that's the sort of theory behind it.
Yeah.
So it's constantly a case of looking forward and trying to visualise what that best line is.
Yeah.
And it takes you a little while to get there, obviously on a new track. So yeah, ready when you are there, Mike, let's make our way out there, and we'll chat as we go around. Some of the corners are easier to visualise than others, and some of them it only sort of opens out as you get into it. You can't really see it. You can't really see the exit until you get into it. On this first corner we come to, when you come down this main track, when you're coming down faster later on, you'll see it looks like there's a double apex. It's a long curve, and there's marks on the beginning and the end of it. And the idea is to ignore the first bit. You can't come down quite quickly. You can move over this line down slowly inside. You see where the first bit of the curve is, there's lines on it here. Don't go for that bit. It's the last bit you want to go for. So the first bit, imagine there's a car there, and you've got to go around it. So leave a good car's bit around that. Now I've got a hairpin bend coming up, which is to the right. The little white board on the end always shows you what corner coming up is, so you can see it's a hairpin. So stay wide, brakes now, down to third gear. So you've got to bring it in as tight as you can to the middle part of that sausage-shaped curve, the big one. And now as you accelerate up the hill, come out wide to the left. So slightly up on the exit, use a bit more of the width of the track next time, come out wide and then gradually move over to the right. The turn point is about the white board, but don't turn in to the first bit of the curve. We'll go to about the middle of the curve. Bring it in gradually until you get to the middle of the curve and hold that line till the end. Accelerate gradually as you do so. As you go off the curve, accelerate a bit harder. And always aim at the far end of the curve.
Okay.
And that way you've always got a bit of safety in mind there. Next corner's not quite a hairpin, but it's still quite a big curve. Unfortunately, the arrow that was on the board, you can see somebody's skid. You can see where the skid marks are. Somebody's destroyed that board. So as we come in quite late as you are, nice and close at about 2/3 point, and then once again looking up to the end of the curve. Next corner's a nice flowing left. Again, just before that white board, just a little touch on the brakes here. Coming nice and close to where the orange square is on the block. Then again, look out to the end towards the end of the curve.
You know, when explaining that, you make it very understandable.
That's what we're trying to do. Yeah, we try and make it easy to learn. So here we should be about the middle of the track, then gradually out to the left hand side. So the turn point is the end of the green curve. As you go in, close to the block with the orange on it, and then again you're looking out towards the far end of that left hand curve, and that way you're seeing the easiest line. Now what you've done, because you look in the mirror, you've let those guys past, because you stay to the inside of the track. They could tell, because you were driving offline, they said, right, I'm going to have that spaces and everything. But if you've gone out wide, they would have let you do it. Right. You have to commit to that at the correct time, otherwise they'll say, send me through. So you've got to try and preempt what other people do. You can go past this person if you like. The turn point is the last white board near enough. If you can't get out in front of this guy, don't worry too much. Stay where you are, squeeze on the brakes, then bring it into a point just around the corner of it, towards the end of this curve here, then brake again for a sharp right. Come in a bit later next time, and again look out at the end of the curve, that's where we want to be. You want to go to port 3, you went in 5th gear there, we need in 3rd. Okay. Drop in 3rd gear now. 4th gear for the moment, 3rd gear, come down in the dip, then as you white ball to a point about the centre of the curve. So that's your point you're aiming at, and then hold it to the end of the curve, and then gradually from that point onwards, come out wider, look at the end of the curve there. Watch fourth gear now. Then I'm coming past, he's gone to clear behind you for a while. So braking point around about the 2 ball, 200 yards. So brakes now down to third gear for this one. That's it. Coming a bit later next time, so you come into a point on the curve later on, and then you'll see you're straighter on the exit. Once again, we're looking at the end of the curve, this is where you want to be. Stay third gear for this one.
Oh, okay.
Stay third gear. It revs up a little bit, it feels a bit happier. Just a little touch on the brakes before the white ball. Turn about now into the corner, past the orange block, and look out to the right hand side there, Mike. Okay, take all the outside. You should be accelerating through now. This car coming past, let it go, and then move out behind it. Bit of brakes now. Bit of brakes. There we go. Nice and tight to the curve. And then about middle of the road here, and then from the middle of the road, keep accelerating, come out wide to the left. So you should be out wide by this green curve. At the end of the curve, come off the power, turn in towards the orange block, accelerate through past the orange block. Now look out to the far end of that curve on the left. Okay. See when you're ready. So now gradually move to the right hand side, but there's a left hander coming up. It's quite a long left, followed by a tight right. So what I'd like you to do this time, Mike, is stay on the left hand side a bit longer when we go between corners.
Okay.
So as you're under the bridge, come over to the left, stay on the left a little bit longer before you turn. So brakes now, down the gear, and then bring it gradually over to the left, stay to the left a bit longer, a bit slower, brakes now, brakes, harder, you're not on the road anymore, bit power on now, but on the racetrack you have to brake harder,
Yeah.
because you're going fast. The race car coming past, now I'd like you to follow through now, follow that man. Go through the dip and then come out a little bit faster, come out wider to the left. Keep going. Keep going where you are, that's because you're in his way, he's going to let you have that. Now put the car in the middle of the track. Hold the middle of the track, nice steady speed, now it's good speed, hold centre of the track all the way through, get a little bit of power on, and then at the end of the curve, ease the power off and bring it gradually in. Brake by the upright, and then look in, turn in just past the end, straight, now start to accelerate through, look at the road, make it straight on. That's car coming past us now, we can carry on as you run. Get when you're ready. That's it. Stay on the right hand side initially.
Yeah.
As you go past the finishing line where the thing comes out, I'll start to move left. So just after the white line, so a little bit further, squeeze on the brakes, stay on the left hand side, ease the brakes off and turn in. Now look at the end of the curve on the inside, aim to get as close to that as you can on the inside at the end. Now look to the end of the far left curve. Keep accelerating now. Don't look at the mirror. Don't look at the mirror. Keep coming out wide. You do that every time there. Don't look at the mirror.
Yeah,
and actually let it pass. Stay wide to the left and brakes. Third gear. A bit more brakes. Slower corner. A bit more brakes. A bit more brakes. Yeah, missed the corner then. Really, didn't we?
Yeah.
Remember, it's a much tighter corner. You've just been around a fast one. It's a much tighter one coming up. Easy over to the right. If you want to let this man pass, easy gate right. If you want to let him pass. If you don't want to let him pass, stay where you are. Okay, so turn from the white ball to the centre point of the curve, which is around about here. Hold that inside line to the end. Start to accelerate now, come out wide to the right. That's it. Up again now, if you want it to pass, if you indicate right, don't come past. We're now in the correct gear for the next corner, so you may as well leave it there.
Yeah.
So brakes now, a bit more brakes. As you turn in from about now, turn in nice and gradually to about 2/3 of the way around the corner, then past that curve and accelerate out towards the end of the next curve. So you're looking out there now. Stay in third gear, keep accelerating towards the white ball, a little bit before the white ball, just a little bit of brakes. So about now on brakes, turn it in. As you go past the gear block, come out wide to the right. So you're using that full width of the track. Now look diagonally across the track. The braking point is about where the white ball is. You need to be over on the left hand side there. Unfortunately, each time we've let people pass there, we've been on the right.
Yeah.
So ideally, come to the left. Remember, wherever the corner is, wherever the next corner is, if it's the right hand corner, you need to approach the left hand side of the track, and vice versa. So from the left hand side of the track, to the right hand, come in close to that block, follow that cater through now, and look out to the end of that left curve again, Mike. Okay? Keep down, try not to look in the mirror there. When you're on the straights, feel free to look in the mirror, not in the corners. Okay? Now we've got a bit of time, let's think about the next corners coming up. Keep on accelerating though. You need to brake it around about 200, 250, depending how fast you're going. About 200 will do us. So brake 200, down the gear, don't turn till you get to the ball. When you get to the ball, turn gradually across the track, hold to the left hand side. You've got to brake quite hard about now. Harder, harder, now tuck it in, now look at the exit. Power out, it's good. Try that again, you can probably focus brakes, then in. Now accelerate through to the end. Go to the end, look at the end of that curve. Now look over to the left and go left. Keep over left, that's it. And brakes. Two more brakes. Now come on, cross the little curve. Start to accelerate now. Should be in the middle of the track about here. And as you accelerate to the middle, come out wide to the left, right? All the way out to the left. Go around the outside of it if you like. If you give me plenty of room, so go around the outside if you like. Those will pass him now. Let's go, 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 go. That's it. Be confident. From now, let's go. There's no rush to go over to the right hand side. Change up now though. Make sure you use all the way you can on the exit. Get to the point where the car feels relaxed and neutral before you move it.
Yeah.
Change up again now if you like. Brakes now down again. Down against third. All the way left hand. Brake harder now. Harder, harder. That's it. Good, good, good. And then you're coming across there quite fast. It's a relatively slow corner. Back wide. Stay in third gear. Again, use the width of the track and get a much nicer sweep through the corner. So as you approach the corner, get well to the left if it's right-hander and use the space. But now put the car in the middle of the track now. This is a long, tricky corner where we have to approach in the middle of the track. Go in the middle, It's about the centre of the road, that's it. And then when you get to the point where the curve edge is still in the middle, now gradually bring it in. The idea is to straighten up your braking area as much as you can.
Right, okay.
Nice and close to the inside. Now look at the exit point. Try and focus on through the corner. So this is what we need to do now, Mike. Is you look at each individual part of the corner. Let's try and look through it to the end.
Okay.
So the bigger picture you look at, the further ahead you see in your eyes, is the more time you've got to deal with it. The only two cars now aren't very quick, so there's plenty of room here. So you only need light braking now. No little bit later now, you get your confidence. Stay out wide to the left. Wide to the left. Now turn across and look at the far end of the curve. That's where you want to be. It's a little bit early, better than last time. Keep the power on. Now look over to the left hand side. Not in the mirror. Not to the left, is it? Now around about 150, brake quite hard and down here. Sit down here. That's good. A little more brakes. Now turn. Start to accelerate now and open the steering out, come out wider. Yeah, try to come further. Because I think you went through the corner there and had the opportunity to open the steering out and go faster. You hadn't really looked at the rest of the corner. Try and remember that. Bring it to the centre of the curve, hold it to the end of the curve, with a balance throttle. Now start to accelerate more. Come out wide to the right. That's it. Then change up when you're ready. Only get about 200, and then down 30 here again. Don't turn too soon into the corner. So a bit more brakes. Now bring it up all the way to the front corner. That's it. Now start to accelerate up the corner. Look at the end of the far curve. Far end of the curve. That's great. Squeeze on the brakes here. Then in. Now start to accelerate. Nice line through there, Mike. Come out wide to the right. That's good. Now keep that line on and go over to the left. Over to the left and brake. Hard now. Little brakes. Harder, harder, harder. Now turn it in. Now start to accelerate through. Look back the middle of the next corner. Middle of the road. Now come out wide. Come out wider. All the way out to the green bit. Let it come off now. Turn in now. Gradually start to accelerate through the corner. Look at the far end of that curve and aim for it. Far end of the curve, don't look at the mirror. Come wide. That's it. Down there. Get a nice flow through the corner. That's good. Keep to the right middle of the lane. Left hand you want to use as much track as you can.
Yeah.
Here. And brakes now. Third gear. Now start to come gradually across all the way to the left hand side. And you need to brake again. Now. Hard. Good. Now turn in. Now look at the exit and power out. That's it. Probably turn the car a bit more than you need to there. get ready with the brakes now. Brake hard, looking now. Now accelerate hard out and go out wide to the left. That's more like it. That's good. Much better. Excellent. Stay in third gear. Come off the power now. Now turn into the middle of the dip here. Now accelerate up the corner here, Mike. Put power down, come out wider. That's good. Let the car settle. Because you've got to the inside, he's gone past.
Yeah.
They shouldn't really have done that. But they've seen that as an invitation.
Right, okay.
Once one goes, they all go. Especially if they're mates.
Yeah.
Stick in third gear. Come across now, start to accelerate out the corner. Then we do a bit of a cool down. That's a little bit steady in this lap.
Okay.
I've got a couple of cars past. That's fourth gear when you're ready. With a few cars past, they've got a little gap. Go from there. We'll just have a look without going too fast. Just have a look at the lines and the corners. So, okay, nobody behind us, so let's move over to the left hand side. So try and sort of memorise this as you go through. Just after the white line, a bit of brake, stay in fourth gear. Turn point is about the white ball. Try and aim not at that bit of track, at the further bit of track, okay? Try and look right round. So you need to be close to the curb just here. But as you go through, let it flow out to the left, okay? Don't be behind for ages. Then at about 150, halfway between the 1 and 2, brake quite hard. Down a gear, a bit more brakes, a bit more brakes. Come in a little bit later than that, close to the last part of the curve. Now as you accelerate, come out wider. All the way to the outside edge. Right to the end. Let it all out there, let the car settle. And then brake to the right, okay? So let it settle out there, give it time. Stay in third gear, just a little squeeze on the brakes here. Turn it from the white ball to the centre of the curve. And then gentle acceleration to the end of the curve. Now a bit more. Straight the car. Into the curve when you do it. Okay? Fourth gear when you're ready. Next turn point. It's a bit hard because the ball's missing. Start with the silver car. Brake harder, down a gear. Down a gear.
Down here, sorry.
Go down in, if you go down too high gear, you've got no power to come out.
Yeah. Majority of this track in third and fourth gear. Okay.
Yeah, you don't need a load of gear changes. Not there. In the slowest corners, car's quite talky. You can do that. Do those mostly fine in third gear, and then fourth gear for the straights. You might want fifth gear on the straight if you really need. Don't put the handbrake on though. Just leave it in gear. That's it. But yeah, I mean basically just to try and sort of look through the corners nicely. I feel sometimes you are, sometimes you aren't.
Yeah, yeah.
And again, you're not looking in the mirror as much as you did early on. And it's important to finish the corner before you look in the mirror.
Right.
And always let the car, this is something that you and Michelle need to sort of work on, is to try and let the car flow out of the corner and use all the track you've got. Even if you don't think you're going fast enough to need it, if you continue to use it, then you'll know where you should be, and then you'll know how much you've got left. There is, when people are new to it, it's a case of thinking, well, I don't need to use all that track, so I won't. But feel free to use it, and then you think, actually, now I'm using all that track, I can go faster. And that's what you've got to do, is use a bit of track first and see what speed allowance that'll give you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, good.
Because imagine if I use that bit of track, otherwise you never know, think, well, how much faster can I go in? I know I've got a bit more track. If you use a bit of track first, you think, well, actually, I feel like I can take another 5 mile an hour through that corner, or maybe get on the power a bit earlier. And the most important thing is, try and, as you come to each corner, try and remember the severity of it, because sometimes you'll come into a slow corner at the same speed you come into a quicker corner, and then your braking is a bit last minute. Try and get used to braking at the same point, and try and remember what corner's coming up, and at what point you come off the brakes, turn the car in, and then get on the gas. And it's very much that situation. You brake, kill the speed, get as much off as you need to, change down if you need to, and then hopefully by that time you should then come off the clutch so the drive is engaged, and then ease the brakes off. The last thing you do before you go into the corner is easing the brakes off. Your gear change should already be done. And generally you do that, so you don't want to be changing gear mid-corner. But as I say, you can do the majority of this. I could still drive this car around and do a pretty quick lap in 3rd and 4th gear. So, but 5th gear on the straights would give it a rest. You don't need 2nd gear for the corners, it's only an added complication. You might get a little bit faster if you do that, but only when you've got really good at it. I would say go as fast as you can in 3rd gear through the slower corners, and at one point you might think, do I need 2nd gear for that? You might not need it, but you might go a little bit quicker if you do. But it depends. You've got less to do if you just keep it in 3rd gear. The car's still plenty quick enough, although the revs drop a little bit, it's still good. And you're giving yourself 2 less gear changes to do. If you go down in 2nd, you've got to come up again. And invariably that change up will be a little bit of a rush, because it'll be probably at an awkward time. So I'd say if you stick with 3rd and 4th gear for the majority of it, just 5th gear on the straights to give the engine a rest, just on each of the long straights. And it's surprising how few gear changes you really need on the track, and that allows you time to concentrate on the car positioning in the track and the line ahead of you. Once you've got that, you can then worry if you need to change gear anymore. It's really a key factor, is looking ahead of you, and then hopefully your input to the steering will be a little bit more flowing. At the moment it's a little bit what we term digital. It's a bit sort of
I get that.
It's all got to go left, and that's that. But you've got to go left. But how far have you got before you need to get out there? You can make it more gradual. Make it more gradual. The car will comply, and the car will remain more stable. You'll feel smoother, and you'll feel you've got more time, because it doesn't feel like a twitchy rush. The car shouldn't feel nervous and twitchy at this speed. It should feel nice and flowing. And if you come into a corner and think, I can't remember if this is the fast one or the slow one, because some of them do disappear a little bit, and you've got traffic around you. If anything going a bit slower, you can always speed up through the corner. But if you're going too fast, which we just did once or twice, it goes wrong, doesn't it? You start to run out of road. Hasn't got serious yet, but it might. As you go faster, your perception of speed will change, and you'll start to accept that actually 80 mile an hour doesn't feel fast anymore, does it? You'll be doing 100 mile an hour, but you've got to remember that you've got to brake hard. And the most common thing on the track is that people don't brake hard enough. They're still braking like they're on the road, braking smoothly and gradually, which is what you do on the road. But on the track, you need to brake a little bit more aggressively and make sure you get the speed off. And if you think you're coming at a corner too fast, the best way to get the speed off is when the car's going at its fastest point. So when you first hit the brakes, if you think I'm going quite quickly now, brake hard, because then you can, as you get near the corner, you can ease the brakes off a little bit. What you don't want to do is start gently and then find you get really into the corner, and then you've got to press it really hard, because that then puts the weight transfer is too severe and the car can't cope with it. So try and get the bulk of the speed off early on. So when you first hit the brakes, fairly firm, don't stamp on it, put your foot on it and squeeze quite hard, get the bulk of the speed off, and then try and judge with your entry speed to the corner how you can adjust the brakes. So when you go into the corner, you're just sort of easing the last bit of brakes off. So hit the brakes fairly hard to start with, don't stamp on it, but put your foot on the pedal and squeeze pretty hard, and then gradually relax it as you get near the corner. What you don't want to do is put it on gently and gradually increase it as you get near the corner. That's the wrong way to do it. You might have to do that in emergency. Once you've done that once, you think, right, I don't want to do that again. I want to try and reverse that so I feel more in control. Because that'll give you more time, wouldn't it? Good to meet you, sir, anyway.
Thank you.
Enjoy your driving, and hopefully that's been some help.
Any more questions? Been a lot of help.
We're only in the office in the afternoon,
okay,
so come and see us.
Thank you very much.
Enjoy your day.
Bye.